Excellent. We both know that it's easy as hell to do something under the right conditions, right?
Sure.
Like it's but when how
How often
often
is that the case, right?
exactly.
Yeah, man.
And I think that that's something that particularly these days, like people just they're just blind to it because so many people are trying to play like the game of like who's the biggest loser, and I don't mean by losing the most weight. I mean by like saying like, oh, like my life's harder than yours. Oh, my life's harder than yours. Like this, and it's like, okay,
Mm,
great. We have an excuse for why you're the biggest piece of shit in the room, but like, who wants to compete to be the biggest piece of shit in the room? Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and I think that's something I know that's always bothered me. I think you've maybe been a little just a smidge less judgmental than I am, but it's whatever. Granted, that's not saying much. Most people are less judgmental than I am, but
Being judging is important too,
yeah,
I
you
think
know,
it's a corrective action because some people don't have that in their life.
yeah, it kind of speaks to the balancing act I think that we've always had, where it's like I've always been like more of like the fire in terms of like how we went about doing things, and so it's like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, like let's do that or whatever. But then like there was always kind of like the earthier kind of element, or I guess wind, depending on like what kind of like mood you're in, because there's sometimes where you're the one who wants to go on like an adventure or something like that.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so it's even when we would game and stuff like that, and like we would always balance the things out. And I think that that's something that like when somebody's like alone, particularly when they start in like shitty circumstances, is why so many people just kind of like completely fall apart, right?
Sure.
Because you have so many people who like they know that they can do better, or that they deserve better, or that like they know just how messed up a given situation is.
Mm.
And because it's just them, the only place they have to go is into their head, which, as we
Oh
both
yeah.
know, is the worst place.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's dangerous, man. It's dangerous, or at least it can be. And it was for me. It's funny because I'm an only child. I had to learn to not necessarily enjoy being alone, but I had to learn how to live in that environment, how to adapt to that, right? And I
Yeah,
wasn't the stereotypical catered to spoiled only child. In a lot of ways, like I kind of had to raise myself. And a boy can't how do you know how to be a man? I'm still doing that. I'm going to be 30 in a few days here now, and I'm still learning to this day what it is to be a man, how to be a better man, especially because I have my own son now.
true.
So you just have to adapt to those situations. But I think the more you have practice with it, I had it my whole life. So, these minor inconveniences that'll shut someone else's life down, I just coast, man. I know how to just shrug that shit off these days and just keep it pushing.
Yeah, and that's the hilarious thing for me to like kind of reflect on that, because like we always took that for granted, right? It's like, oh, things are shitty. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, it's like, oh no, things are going badly. It's like, when are things going right? Point that out to me. I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
There's like,
And
I don't
what's
know.
your definition of right too?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
like what journey is required to kind of reach this or that. But
mhm.
I think that's people have often complimented me on like my mindset, because I'm in marketing, I'm in business. There's a name for everything, but
Sure.
it's like I still look at it as like attitude, right?
Yeah.
And I went to, I forget what the event was, it doesn't matter, but like there were people who were saying like I would love to be able to go, but I can't leave until like the night before or something like that, and et cetera, et cetera. And like they would have gotten there at, I don't know, midnight or something.
Yeah.
And then of course, being the eternally non-abrasive version of, see, you're already fucking smiling because um took the flight to the friggin' airport and I stayed there overnight and like sent like a picture of it and like made a post in the group. It's like, look, this people don't succeed because
Yeah, man.
this thing worked out. It's like I'm sitting at a damn seat in an airport overnight and then I'm going to the hotel. And you know what? Sitting here is a great, like a vastly improved quality of life from like kings of like the medieval ages. I have air conditioning, I have windows, I have something I can shit in and it goes away rather than having to wait for someone to come and pick it out of the chamber. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure. Yeah,
and
yeah.
yet people are complaining because, oh no, like I would have to stay up a little bit late. It's like,
Right.
this
Yeah,
is,
people put those barriers in front of themselves, man, and that's exactly what it is. Like, there's things that life does where life puts a barrier in front of you, you know. But most of this is the case of people just doing it to themselves. Is it not?
yeah. And I mean, even when a barrier gets put in front of you, like usually there's always a way around it. You know what I mean? Like even like again, you could say that we were born in situations that were barriers to the kind of lives that we're either living, pursuing, whatever else,
Yeah.
and we still, it's not like we're just like, oh, this is how it is, so we're just stuck with whatever. Like we're like, well, fuck that.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go after what I want, you know?
Absolutely.
And it's interesting to me because I mean we're both intellectual, but when it comes to I think like how we look at it, again, it kind of speaks to I guess the element that I've attributed to the things. I haven't confirmed that like your element is like rock or wind and mine is fire. That's just kind of like a visualization that I'm doing. But like I've
Absolutely.
always been so focused on what I wanted that like I just kind of shrug things off. And I think that you maybe are like more contemplative than I am in certain things where it's like I always feel like I need to be up here. And if it's
Sure.
anything else, I've learned to be maybe a little bit more merciful on myself, but not more tolerant. Like I'm still like, okay, well, I won't like
Yeah.
hate myself for not being there, but I
Yeah.
still want to fucking be there.
Right.
And
That's a lesson I'm learning as well. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it
Learn to
does
be
feel like
nice.
you're more
You know.
grounded.
Mhm. So maybe I should be Earth. I would pick Earth if I had to pick one. I'd probably choose Earth.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Contemplative. Yeah, man. It always felt in my life. It always felt like there was a test. I was always being tested. It took me a while to understand that, and this is just my personal life, like I said. But it always felt like every decision I made was either going to be a shortcut or a detour. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is like if I made the right situation in that particular moment, um, that'd be a shortcut to like get me there quicker. But like if I made the wrong decision, then I'm detouring around that, and like I'm gonna reach that point again later
mm,
on in life. And I've seen that time and time again to adopt that philosophy. So
huh.
I try to stay on because you know what's right and wrong on your personal journey, right?
Yeah.
What you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to stay away from. And I've slipped. I've made those detours. Some of it was real scenic. I learned a lot from those wrong decisions. I don't take any of them back, but it is something that I recognize now. And I feel more inclined to follow that a certain path now. Being, I'm a homeowner now. I got a family. Um, I have I have different goals now that I'm turning 30. So there's no more time to fuck around, So I wanna get there quicker because I'm 30, man. I'm starting to feel it. I'm a human. This is temporary. So let's do what we want to do here.
Yeah. And I think it's also we've always, I mean, you and me know this, but you and I You and I sounds right, even though I think grammatically it's wrong, but like you and me, it's like I think that's technically right, but it always feels wrong. So whatever, you and I. Um,
You and I, we're the same. Live and die, we're the same.
we're not so
Sure, Barry
different,
Brothers.
you and I. Uh,
Absolutely.
we've always had
Love
this
it.
like interesting, it was both synergy, but also it's like a mirrored situation too, right? So
Sure.
it's like
Yeah.
you have a family. I don't. You have a house. I have an apartment. But like even just like how like you generally have shorter hair. I've always loved the longer locks, you know what I mean? But then at the
Definitely.
same time,
Yeah.
like I thought that like you would be getting on this call like probably like 4 minutes ago. And so I started it and literally like 2 minutes or whatever after that, you were on. And like all the times throughout our
Yeah,
lives
man.
like, when we texted each other the exact same time,
That's
you know.
synchronicity, right?
Yeah, man. And even just like the reflections of certain situations too. um and I think that there's a concept that um my girlfriend's mentioned before where it's like, you know, if souls don't, you know, well, first of all, if souls are real, but then if you're assuming that souls are real and that they go like through multiple lifetimes, it makes sense to think of it in the sense that like you could be friends with somebody in a previous lifetime, and then when you meet them in this lifetime, it's like you didn't see them for like 6 months and now you see them again. It's
Mm,
not meeting them, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And ever since like with, I don't remember like the exact moment, probably because it was, you know, years ago, but um like when we met in fucking kindergarten,
Yep.
it it just felt like we hadn't seen each other in a while. At least that's what it felt like to me. And it's like, oh, like hi again. You know, it wasn't
Yeah.
like, oh, this is my name, this is my name. It's like, oh,
You know what? I got a funny story. First of all,
you're
let's address that. Wow, it's been 25 years of friendship. That's insane to
a
say,
quarter of
right?
the quarter of a century.
That's wild. That's wild to say, man. And it's been lovely, dude. You're a hell of a guy, and there's a reason why I call you my best friend. So let's start there.
And
How
right.
you doing?
I'm doing. How you, no, no,
um,
forget about Honda. How you doing?
it's funny, man. Like, do you remember when you came into consciousness? Like, do you remember your first like memories where you were like, you woke up and you're like, wow, I'm in a thing called life.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Hilariously enough, I well, you know, it's kind of the nature of being honest about things. I was taking a shit.
Came into the world shitting.
It was at where it was like like it was daycare. It wasn't kindergarten, it was daycare. Well, obviously it wasn't kindergarten. Um, but yeah, I saw myself from above. Thankfully, I didn't smell myself from above.
Yeah, yeah.
But like I saw like this person and then I went down and then I just was acting, which is weird. Like I wasn't amazed when I was living. I would just started going about my business.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because it was normal. Like you probably already had like man,
Yeah.
that's a weird thing to explain because you're like entering yourself in a sense, but like you've been roaming around
Yeah. It's
this
weird to
world
think
for
of
a
it.
few years. Yeah, it's so strange. But I mean, yeah, obviously the same situation. Just kind of like came to and like, oh, this is my normalcy. This is what I'm doing now, or have been doing. But anyways, so my situation was actually a dream. It was all a dream. Yeah, so
He's
it
a
started with
read
a
boot up
dream.
magazine.
It's
Sorry.
important. It's important to address that because it's weird how, and I can't explain it to you why. But okay, so this dream, all it was is like just a panning of people, right? And oddly enough, like there's this lineup of people in my dream. I've met some of those people in my dream that turned out to be like a pivotal, type of person in my life thus far. And I'm only 30, so I mean,
Huh.
hopefully I come back to this, or this dream comes back to me, and I can take a look at these people again and see if anything's changed. But yeah,
Yeah,
a few of my friends have been there in that lineup, and it's just a weird thing to experience, because what does that mean? What does that even mean? You know?
yeah, it's like precognitive in
Yeah.
that sense, and that also is interesting because like I've had um precognitive dreams as well. Not that they meant anything important, but um, I don't know if like as I'm talking, if can you hear the fucking weed whacker downstairs below me at all?
I cannot. I'm hearing my
Good,
birds chirping outside right now.
good. Hopefully nobody on Facebook hears it either.
Oh, this is live right now? Live on
Yeah,
Facebook? And
yeah.
we're live!
Yeah, it's always interesting that I have some pretty interesting characters in the chat sometimes. Like my one buddy, Carl Otake, like he's like literally has like a background in like being in like the military and like other certain elements of the military, let's say. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like interesting to just like get different people's perspectives on stuff. I remember
Hmm.
one time my buddy Jared Arlen was like, I was making a point about something, and as you know, I'm always succinct in everything that I say. Um, which is me pointing out that like, no, I'm not. Um, and he was like, I'm still waiting for the fucking point.
I'm
So
getting there.
yeah, exactly.
I have to
So
build up this backstory first.
yeah,
So you
right.
understand. Yeah.
We need to add the weight to it.
Hey, just to put a timestamp on things. Did you watch that latest UFC or no?
No, I usually catch up on them like later on. Like I haven't even seen like the latest like McGregor fight. Like so I watch them when they go up. Like
Fair enough.
Why
Fair
do you
enough.
mention it?
Oh, it was just it was crazy upset. Leon Edwards knocked out Kamaru Usman.
Good. Maybe you can stop fucking
Usman's been
wrestling
on,
people the whole time.
yeah, Usman's been on, I think it was what, a 15 fight concurrent like win streak. He was about to tie the record for Anderson Silva of 16 wins in a row, and then he got knocked out 5 rounds in, 1 minute to go. Like a champion does, though. He took down the champ, became the champ. It was just a cool thing to see. So,
and I think that's
I
a
don't know
good.
when it's going to go up, but you know.
Yeah, it's interesting to even think about like that because like you have like your background in football. I never really did sports very much, but I always, liked. It's a good thing that my girlfriend is understanding. I've always liked violence, and it's an interesting thing to admit on TV. But like I just always found that interesting, like martial arts and the fight scenes in movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like I think it's because for me, like I always appreciated like just like the act of fighting in the sense of like there's no space for bullshit. You know what I mean? Like if you
Right.
if you get your ass kicked, you get your ass kicked. If you get killed, you get killed. Like there's no nonsense. You can't make excuses. You're either alive, win, or you're dead, or you lose, right?
Sure.
And for me, like that was always a big thing because like I'm not even going to say growing up because I don't intend to ever grow up, but
27 forever, right?
exactly. But when I was still aging, before I stopped aging, like it always pissed me off how like I could know what was going on and I could point it out, but people could just ignore it. They could just brush it away. And then just like it was as it was like they could say that 2 + 2 = 7 and there'd be no consequences.
Mm.
And of course with time, like I started seeing that shit starts adding up, it starts catching up with people. But that was something that always infuriated me, and like it added on to like the feeling of like I never felt like everything that I was experiencing in life was like something that I shouldn't experience, but I did always feel like I was in the wrong place.
Mm.
And so like there were people that I had met that I valued meeting, but it just like I personally feel like I've wasted a lot of time with my life,
Sure.
27 forever or not. And like to think about like the nature of being pulled towards whether it's a destiny, feeling like it's a destiny, whatever whatever word you want to put on it.
Yeah.
And like the thing that was always the most maddening for me was like feeling like this is where I belong
Right.
and not being there.
Yeah.
You
It's like your soul's energy isn't matching up with your life's energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when you're a kid, that's a tough situation to be in, right? Because I mean, what are you gonna do? You have food, you have shelter, like, and not your parents are responsible for you too, right? So yeah, maybe that's why we were drawn to the violence, like the video games and the action figures. And you and me personally, we had the
The
game,
game.
the
Yep.
game,
Fuck yeah.
So to give people context about the game is like it was like LARPing before we knew of LARPing.
We made
Basically,
it cool.
yeah, we made it cool as hell though, And that game lasted what? At least probably 10 years, right?
Oh, it had to be.
Something like that. It had to have been 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that was just our developing minds or whatever, just adapting to this not so sufficient life. Maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know. We had to entertain ourselves somehow.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it was that we could feel that something could be better. Like we knew, like it was that internal knowing, right? Like that intuitive kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that part of like going into the worlds and stuff like that was a way of like, yeah, not just being here, not being,
Yeah.
Around where like, some alcoholic could, beat you up or
Sure.
smash your system or hit your dog or whatever. Like that's not how things should be, right?
Yeah.
It just isn't how it should be. And I
Right.
think, like you
Well, that's
said,
how
like
it
when
was.
you're a kid. Yeah, exactly.
That's how it was. And it's like that took us away from like, I don't have to be Chris Bierk today. I can go be a hero right now. I can go on a grand adventure right now.
Or Chris Beer can be a hero. You know what I mean? Like
That's where things started to change later on in my life. Like I took on that role. Like I could do this. Not to say that I've completely become that, because just what life has handed me. I'm still learning a lot. I'm 30 years old, still learning the way of life,
Yeah, you're definitely humbler than me.
What's that?
You're definitely more modest than me. I'm always like, she's like, yeah, like I did my way.
Right.
Because everything's going on YouTube, I can't sing for too long, otherwise it'll claim the fucking video when it eventually goes on there. But it's the thing for me, because another interesting juxtaposition of it all is that like you were always like in things. You were always in school in the traditional sense, like same school, like and you had the standard like the spectrum of like girlfriend here, girlfriend, whatever through high school and stuff.
That I did.
You're on the football team, stuff like that. Not to say that you were typical, but like you lived, the generally like more typical experience in terms of just like doing those things.
Sure. Which is ironic because I always felt like the outcast anyway. In every situation that I was in, I never felt like I belonged there. Yeah, I just adapted. To my situations. I made the best of it.
And you also had, you had parents in that sense too, where I think it's like there is something to be said for having the parents versus having kind of like the situation, because like I raised myself on fiction, like as you know, like I mostly for a good portion of my life like had shut myself like into fiction, like into my room almost. It was games and shit that I watched pretty much, and reading a little bit, but aside from that, like I didn't like living with the people that I lived with. I didn't, I never found them like something that like helped me grow. It always just felt like something that now I can realize like made me feel like a bad guy.
Sure.
And I realized like now I can see that it's because I could see what they were doing that was imperfect. And I would point it out with, even more Isaac abrasiveness than I have now. Like now at least I know how to make it a little bit tactful, a little bit. But like so and then there was also the thing of like I was on home instruction for like pretty much all of high school and stuff like that. And like you were driving at the normal age. I was not. I am not. So there's
Yeah.
like there are those elements of it too where it's like in some ways I had to figure things out more in one way and you had to figure things out more in another because sure I had to figure it all out via fiction and stuff like that, but I also like in fiction things can be as they should be, or usually they end up as they should be, right? Whereas like in real life things can just be fucked, you know.
Often are.
Yeah, so it's like even just thinking of that whole thing of like the different paths that we went down in terms of like trying to move on from the background,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
not just be those fucking kids from the country who, the Bennington boys.
Kids from the country, nonetheless.
Yeah,
Throw that in there.
it's part of it.
Well, I can relate to the whole home situation because it kind of felt like my parents were more like roommates. Like they
Okay.
paid for everything. Like I give them some credit because they
put up with you.
They didn't let me die.
Use that.
I had a place to go. I had food and such. But it there was not really as much parental guidance as there really should be. Not a lot of structure for me to like become a man. And man, it wasn't the greatest at times. I loved school for that reason because it allowed me to get away from the house and go be with my friends. So I wasn't one of those kids that tried to skip school. I wanted to be there because it gave me that feeling that like I have a normal life when I didn't, but that goes back to like me feeling like the outcast. It's like I couldn't relate to any of these kids, but like I tried, and then I guess I was successful in doing so,
Yeah, you could live the life, but you couldn't be like everybody else that was living it. Like
it didn't change what happened at home either. I knew that I still had to go back to that.
Yeah,
and, until I ran away. Remember when I ran away?
Yeah,
14 years old, I ran away. I lived with my friend from school, the Woods. I lived at his house for a few days, and they talked me into having a meeting like at Prospect School. So I go there, and sure enough, there's a cop there, and they take me home. And so nothing's changed. We get into a giant argument when we get back home. I run away again. I'm making it down the road. A cop finds me, and then I'm telling, dude, I'm not going home. Which is funny because like you think they would talk to my parents about the situation, but instead, like I had to go to what is it even called? Like just one of those like a juvenile holding center, basically.
Oh shit, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was there for like a weekend. It felt like a week, but I guess it was only like maybe 3-4 days. Man, I did not belong there either. Did not belong there. I was just a sad kid that wanted to change his situation. But what do you do when you're 14 years old and you don't have anything to stand on but what your parents have built for you, but you want to get away from them? How do you do it?
Yeah, man.
There's a lot of kids there that were like, drugs weren't even a part of my life at that point. There's this kid like, oh, I'm on Zoloft, I'm on this and that, different painkillers I've never even heard of before. There's another girl had just giant scars up and down her arm, so I definitely didn't belong there, but it felt like I was getting punished for trying to escape my life.
Yeah, and that is kind of the crazy thing about it. And like I never thought about this before, but like I also in a certain sense ran away in the sense of like how I got myself out of like normal like public school, right? And I got myself onto home instruction. Hilariously, in many ways, I was so glad that I did that. But it's just kind of funny how those contrast because, but at the same time, I also gained perspective too because I was a complete punk when it came to school and stuff like that. Like literally, the only thing that carried me through was my intelligence. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because, like, dude, literally, I was playing the game of the bubbles. You know, like you read the blurb, you're like, okay, this is what it's about. It's not that, it's not that, 50-50, this feels right, go. Like
Right.
that was how I took tests. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing because I didn't care. It was like nobody else cared, so why the hell should I? You know,
Sure.
like this entire world is just like oppressing me and like it's completely rotten at the same time. And it has like the nerve to act like I'm the one that's the problem and like literally nobody knows how to listen to anything that I say. You know, so it's funny because it's, you know, I think that I think all teenagers go through that to an extent, and maybe to an extent
Yeah.
is because I,
Well, times are changing now.
yeah, I mean, the
Getting
thing
a
is,
little softer now, a little more opinionated now. Dude, they didn't
yeah,
even listen to our opinions back then. Now it's like we're forced to listen to everyone and how they feel and shit. And it's like, no,
yeah,
it's not how it's supposed to work. Actually,
yeah, you can be a
some people's
cat, but you
opinions
can't be
don't
an
matter.
individual. Yeah, it's, dude, we would not. Can you imagine how bad of a fit we would have been for the modern day?
Oh
You
no.
know, it's like meow, stop meowing at me. You're a fucking human. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Oh god, I don't even want to get into all that.
I would
It's
be,
craziness.
to be fair, I would be worse than you. I would always be worse than you in that sense, and we both know it. Like, dude, I remember like we were hanging out a few years ago, and we were walking back, and we had gone to a bar or something like that, or I forget what it was. We were
Hmm.
walking back, and I forget what I said, but for whatever reason you picked up on like how there was a dude ahead of us that could have gotten offended by it in a sense of like wanting to start
Oh
a
yeah,
fight.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
And so you picked up a rock, not to use it against him, but it's like it always
More or
kind
less to protof protect you and us, like just in
I
case
do
that
feel
guy
like,
got offended.
yeah, like sometimes
We'll leave that story off camera, I think.
yeah, I don't even remember the details anyway, but it's just one of those things where it's like it has often felt like one of us would be trying to like kind of mediate the other not being too much of their negative self in a certain sense. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like I've always been the guy that's like, oh, too fucking bad. You know what I mean? Like, get out of my face. Like that.
Yeah.
That's always how I've been. And it's like if somebody had a problem with it, go ahead. I don't care how much I weigh. I'll still take you out. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and like
Oh yeah.
I have never actually started physical fights. Never started them. But well, I've never been the one who threw the first punch. Okay, I
Yeah.
guess I need to be kind of honest with myself about certain things, but um, but then at the same time, like there have also been times like you were like very unhappy like with where your life was and such, and like you said in those cases, not to like you know build myself up, but like it was a sort of light to kind of look to when everything else was really shitty, you know. So there's been that sort of like light at the end of the tunnel effect, I think, and
Yeah.
even just I even remember like I always think about it because we had a conversation about this a little while, well, not a little while ago, like a few days ago.
Yep.
Like I recently got into very deep now, Magic the Gathering, the card game, and you know I bought you the deck, and you know we played that a few times, and I think you said that you
And
enjoyed
it's
that.
fun. It's
Yeah,
fun. It's different.
yeah,
Brings
and
back,
it's
it's reminiscent of the Yu-Gi-Oh days and
yeah,
just simpler times.
yeah, man. And
Fun.
even playing it together, like not having to be on like a video game or whatever like that. Like you do feel different, you know. But when I was
Yeah.
talking about the cards and stuff like that, you know, I was like joking about like, you know, like getting you like a pack. Well, I wasn't even joking about it at first. Like, you know, like once you were more into it, then I'd be happy to like, you know, just get you like a bulk order of cards because it's not even that much. And we were kind of like going back and forth about it where it's like, um, because at one point you mentioned that like that you guys were just not that great at getting gifts. And it even made me think of like that, and we've talked about this several times, like years ago when we were at that clothing store and you had the option to just get whatever you wanted. And like I have seen you go through like a bunch of situations that like would probably fuck with a lot of people.
Bring people to their knees. Yeah.
I think that was the time when you were least prepared. And that was like that was not even, you know what I mean? Because you get used to, and you even said this the other day, where it's like you know how to survive, right?
I've always had the bare minimum of things, you
Right.
know.
But then when you have more,
I don't
it's
even know what to do with it
yeah,
at this point, you know. That's what it's become. Like I now it used to just not my life used to be just not having it and wanting it. And
yeah,
now I'm in a position sort of like I'm not rich or anything, but you know, I could go get these things. I just want simple. I just want my life to be simple because it's been chaotic enough, and I realize that I don't need certain things, you know. So, and just to bring it back to the card thing, you have so many damn cards, man. And I don't know if I do the whole tournament thing. I like it. I enjoy it. The artwork is amazing, you know. But if I'm just playing, if I'm just over and we're just playing a game, you know what I mean? I think that's good enough.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't get, because the thing is like, and this, I guess this kind of brings it back to like the whole idea of like being the sort of like person who can make things work versus like being the people who just kind of like run into like what's comfortable. It's that like they're not to say that everybody is, because I mean there are all kinds of people playing friggin' Magic the Gathering. Like I've been watching this one YouTube channel where they'll show the games. Like Post Malone does it. Cassius Marsh, some football guy, like he does it. Like
Shout
he's
out
big.
those guys.
Yeah, like they're like there's just
I
a
want
bunch
to
of
talk
shit.
to you. You can have this and I can hear you.
Well, come
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Now that you're here, James, he wants to talk on the
Oh
walkie thing.
man,
Can
dude,
you
this
give me
is
like 10 more minutes, buddy? 10 more minutes.
yeah. You got shy.
Got it on. All right.
Dad, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I hear you.
No, my holding this button.
All right. Give me 10 minutes, okay?
Dad, can you hear me?
10 minutes.
Can you hear me?
No, you're not pressing the button. Give me 10 minutes, okay? I'll hold on to this. I love you.
You want to talk to me? Stay outside? I don't want to come outside.
He's already in there. He doesn't have his collar on.
Yeah.
1 minute.
No. I guess as a sidebar, I remember when I was telling this kid, like we were playing with action figures. I was telling him he'd be a great dad someday. He definitely has more of the temperament for it than me. But I guess like for me, it's thinking about like thinking about the people where like they'll build out these friggin' decks where it's like, oh, like I can beat you. And it's like they're like these cheap ass decks or like they can beat like almost anybody. And it's like, yeah, but dude, like you're sitting at a table moving pieces of paper around and then you're going back to your job and like it's probably like you probably live in your mom's basement. Like they're like people get these like sense like multiplayer, like people friggin' cheating in Call of Duty. And I don't even mean it like tournaments, because you wouldn't be able to do it at a tournament. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna be able to tell stuff like that. And like you have people that like they're the kings and the queens, but only in their own heads, right? And it's like you can see that these people like they had difficult circumstances and they didn't rise to meet them. They did as adults what we did as kids,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah.
And that's always a thing. That's always been a thing for me where it's like, I feel like you've always been more compassionate than I have when it comes to like people's struggles in that regard. Because
I found beauty in it. I think that's why, because I've been stuck in, I'm still kind of in it. I mean, I don't know if it'll ever end, the struggle, you know? So I think, you know, the hard times that you're put in, if you look for it, the beauty is there, you know, because it can't all be bad and it's not all bad, but there are trials, there are circumstances, there are things you have to get yourself through, and there's better ways of going about those things, you know. You don't have to suffer through it, and a way to not suffer through it is just realizing like that it's that your life isn't just that. Just take a look around, you know, and it's a beautiful day, you know, and just that can change your outlook. It can change the destination that you've already put yourself in, you know, like, oh man, this is such a hard place, such a hard time in my life. Like, but is it though? Because you can get through it.
Hmm.
Odds are that you will. I have.
Yeah. I think that we both see it in the sense of like, yeah, there is more than what this is, right? Like, or there's seeing something that you may not see if you're not looking with the right eyes. And I think for me, like the big thing was always, and I mean, particularly because of like how I'm just more momentum driven, like I would be working at like a, you know, like a retail store or like a factory, something like that. And like someone would act like they knew what they were talking about better than me. And it's like, there's something so infuriating about knowing you are smarter than this fucking person.
Sure.
And they have like feeling like they have no business acting like they like should be managing you in any sense, any capacity. And but then like you're just stuck with the reality that you have to pay rent, right?
Right.
You know? And like that was something where I don't know about you, but I never worked a job for a full year. And like in my entire life, never had the same job for a whole year.
Well, lucky
And-
you.
Well, no, but I mean, like it was always the same fucking, you know, it was being a stocker at a retail store or working at a gas station or, you know.
Yeah, I've worked plenty of shitty jobs, man. The one I
Yeah.
have now, I'm actually going on 2 years. And same
Shit.
situation, actually. The one before this, I was there for a solid year until I got my current one, which is a better one. But yeah, man, I was doing that as well, just hopping around different jobs.
Yeah. And I think it also speaks to like the different ways that we find the kind of life that we've wanted. Because like for me, it was never gonna like it never was, never will end in anything besides exactly what I want in terms of like it's not enough to make enough and then be able to buy this or whatever. Like I want to have the house I want to have on the property I want to have it. I want to be able to do the things that I want. I want to be able to dress exactly how I want. I want to be able to pay to fix my teeth or make myself taller, whatever crazy shit I want to do. I want exactly that.
Right.
And I'm not stopping until I get it, you know?
Mhm.
And that is reflected in the sense of like when I was still working at I forget I think I was doing that in between job thing, the one that we both did at the one point where like they find like the things that you go to.
The temp agencies.
Yeah.
Man,
And
come a long way from that, right?
yeah, man. And remember like when we were thinking about,
You used to have to walk an hour just to get there.
2 hours for the one
2
job. Yeah.
fucking hours, man.
Yeah. 2 hours there, 2 hours back.
Yeah.
And
Just to work a job we didn't fucking want to work at.
it didn't pay enough.
For sick pay.
Yeah.
So that's the struggle, right?
And like the way that I got to where I am now is by like, you know, spending money that I didn't have. I mean, it was all financed by credit cards, you know, and I've spent most of those the last 2 years being in debt, like almost entirely in debt the entire time because I was, you know, basically doing a small business loan of $1 million. You know what I mean? Like that whole thing. But like it worked out for me. And
yeah, you took a chance. You took a chance and it worked out, and you worked your way through that struggle and that burden of being in an immense amount of debt, you know, and you worked it into your favor.
Yeah.
So.
And you found a way to be able to like root yourself down because I think that like now it seems like you found a way to be more grounded. But if you remember, you know, like 5 years ago or something like that, and before that, like it was like it always felt like you couldn't stop. Like you needed to be doing something. Like there was like, you know, the breezy thing, right? Where it's like there was always this or that or whatever else. And it like it almost seemed like you wanted to be lost during those times. I don't know if that's accurate. But it's interesting how we both found a step towards what we see as like an ideal life. in our own ways, because it's like you can wake up and go to sleep without like feeling rushed, without being feeling like you're like being like you're a parent. Like of course you're gonna be rushed to some extent, but you know
Oh,
what I
yeah.
mean. It's just interesting to me like how we've both found that small measure of peace, to put it in like Last Samurai terms.
Right.
You
I
know.
think most of my life I've been trying to escape something that I thought was inescapable until I realized that instead of running from something, I just have to create what I want my life to be, you know?
Yeah.
And in time, I've found these tools and I've found, the right people and the right headspace to do those things. I think it's just taken a long time to develop this like belief system that, hey, I can do that, because for so long it was the opposite, because I was conditioned since a very young age to not believe in myself. No, you can't do that, you're not capable of doing that. Well, I don't believe in that anymore
Man.
at all.
And,
We can do anything we want in this life.
and even just the having to transition from always having to fight things off is another thing too, because it's like we learned how to be able to deal with whatever we had to, but then in business there's the whole thing of what got you here won't get you to the next stage, and that's true in life too, where it's like what allows you to survive is not what will allow you to thrive, you
Right.
know. And like we've both done, had to do things in order to like get through situations, right?
Yeah, man.
That most people they haven't had to do, and they don't understand what it's like to live even the more typical life, having had to do those things and knowing that that is like an option. Like, whether it's like earning money a given way and like having to go back to a given job and like, no, like, dude, I could make so much more than this in a day. You know what I mean? Or whether it's this, and so to have that perspective of like the things that like other people haven't done, and then come back to like this normal life, like not that our lives have ever been normal, but it's like
Not at all.
I think that there's learning how to get beyond that whole like yeah, like I'm stuck in the marshes, but if you get close to me you're dead, you know what I mean, kind of energy that we had to cultivate for however long. Like it's really weird letting go of that.
It is, right? It's less of a survival thing, because that's what we were doing. We're just surviving our lives.
Right.
Then like you said, like you get here. It's just all about adapting, man. We've gotten here. Now we have to do things differently here, different there.
Yeah.
Now you're at a great place in your life.
Working on, always
Working
making
on,
it better. It's interesting because you said something the last time we hung out, which was like you were kind of mentioning, like I know how to survive. Like I have that down. And you're talking about yourself in that sense, but you're like, but then what do you do with this? Like when you have it, it was just funny because there was like that wonder of it's like, it's like, what do you do with it? Like, I don't know. You know?
Where are all the problems that I used to have?
Right.
I mean, the
Where do
dance
you
thing don't stop. He's always there. But
right.
yeah, man, it's less about survival now, and it's more about maintaining what we have now. We've reached this level of success now, being, me particularly, like I'm a father, a homeowner, I'm about to be a husband, about to be fucking 30.
Yeah, man.
I'm here now, man. So it's a matter of like, how do I adapt to this way of life now? And if I'll never forget what got me here either, so I can always go back to that. But I'd rather not. I'm done trying to live my life in reverse. I'm done trying to dig up the past and live in there, because I'm here in the present now, thinking about the future. So there's no more of that. How do we adapt to the here and now? And that's an everyday thing. Like, what can I do today to be a better person, 1% better than yesterday, every day, kind of mindset.
Yeah, and I'm kind of coming from that as well in the set. Like, I think we're probably focusing on like different elements, because I mean, we've lived still different lives, even if there've been
Just have different
similarities.
circumstances.
Yeah, and it means different things to us as well. Like to me, like the way I think of my legacy is by the impact that I have on others via, this book or that song or whatever. Like that is my sort of legacy, and like cultivating these different things, to me, that is kind of like my child in that sense. You know what I mean? Like I know it's not the same, but it's like it is similar in some ways, where it's like, you watch, like, you try to build something, you don't really know what you're doing, you watch it stumble, you have to figure out how to pick it up the right way, not just pick it up, but like in the way that's going to actually, when things
Absolutely.
don't go perfectly, you need to find a way to do something, you know and that's when you asked me that whole thing, like, like, okay, so you're going to be paying your debt off soon, like you were saying to me. Like, what are you going to do after that?
Right.
And it made me really think about it, where it's like, I've never been impressed by like any amount of money I've made in a given month has never impressed me. At most, it's been like, oh, okay. Like now it feels a little bit closer to what like I feel like I should be making,
Right. Yeah.
And it's always been the same thing with like being on stage or meeting like high profile people. Like that doesn't feel amazing to me. Like I appreciate it, but to me that's normal. You know what I mean? Like I
Right.
want to, like, shit. Imagine if like someday I could be like, hey dude, like, I don't know, I'm gonna be playing fucking Magic the Gathering with, I don't know, Eminem or something. You know what I mean? Like you want
Post
to
Malone.
you know what I mean? Like I don't know if he plays it or not, but that'd be funny. I wouldn't rule it out,
Right.
but
You're just climbing the ladder right now, man. You're climbing the ladder to this tree house of yours,
yeah.
You're almost there.
Yeah, man, I think that it does make me think of it. I know that like you have to get back to your son, and I have a meeting coming up as well. And we can always do another one whenever like you'll have the time and such. But I think for me, I've always had like that feeling like I just need to keep going and just keep going. And it just,
That's exactly it, man.
yeah.
That's how we got here. We just kept going. There's plenty of times where I thought about hanging it up, and I'm glad that I did, because getting to this point, I'm curing some childhood traumas of mine. I'm learning what an actual family dynamic is supposed to be like, just by being an everyday present, good father to my son. That's changed a lot for me.
Yeah, and then for me, I think it's like it's building out like the things that I've always wanted to do, like to be able to record music and listen to it, or to be doing the podcast. Like I don't, like it's not a big thing yet, but it never starts a big thing. When I started doing marketing, I was just a friggin', retail level worker walking to his jobs for minimum wage and such. I'm not a big deal in my industry or anything like that, but I have opportunities that many other people, would be glad to have. And I can actually cultivate, like, I can send this book out now, or I can record that episode. I can talk about the things that I want and people are going to see it. And I can turn that into content that maybe will give somebody else value. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
We've come a long way, man. Come a long fucking way, dude. You should be proud of yourself, because I'm proud of you.
Well, I'm proud of you. Oh man, yeah. I know that we, if we had the time, when we were little, we used to literally talk all night long.
All night, literally till the sun came up.
Yeah, and that I remember.
Sunrise.
Yeah, that was the thing where it's, like we would plan out, like at the, like when we would hang out, it's like, you want to stay up and watch, like, watch the sunrise and stuff like that. And it's crazy to feel like the nature of things change. Like, when we were little, like we would have to plan out, like when you could come over on a weekend or something like that. Or, like when people were still driving you. And now, we are where we are now. Like we can't
2 hours away from each other.
Yeah, we can't hang out for like 3 days, just because we want to, because of, life
Yeah.
and adulting and stuff.
Right.
Um,
But we always find time for each other.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
So
Always will.
yeah, man, I'm interested and actually, strangely enough, now excited to see where things go, you know? And yeah, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming out, making the time for this when you on your day off,
Hey, I got a whole week of vacation now, baby.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I don't even know what to
Shit.
do with myself. This is a good way to start it.
Yeah, man. Well, I can't wait for more. What else is there to say?
Yeah.
Cool. Love you, man.
Godspeed, brother.
Yeah.